in today's live video or live coding, I will go through the React without ES6 section of the advanced guide. So here, I'm going through it for the first time. So whoever is watching will be learning it as I go. I put the link to the document in the video. So if you look at the description, you will see the link to this website, React without ES6. Anyway, so what they're saying is normally you would define a React component as a plain JavaScript class. So this is the normally you would define ES6 class like this. If you don't use ES6, you may use React class module instead. So like they're saying, hey, if you don't want to use ES6, you could use something like this. You could use a create React class to create it, and I think create React class module to create this. I wonder what package has this module. Is it a module by itself? I don't know. So let me look at the node modules folder and see if there is anything like that. So I see create. I don't see a create React module. So I don't know where that comes from. Let's assume it comes from one of the libraries, existing libraries anyway. So you create a React class and then you assign a variable, and then you call the create React class function, pass it how you want to render it, and looks like this is how you create it. I'm not going to use this non-ES6 based approach, but I just wanted to quickly go through this. So the API of ES6 classes is similar to create React class. So basically they're saying this has a render API also, and this also has a render method, and same thing here. So both of them have render methods. So declaring default props with functions and ES6 classes, default props is defined as a property on the components itself. Yeah, so default props are set like this in ES6 classes. So they're defined on the component itself. Let's say we create a React component called greeting. Then to set default properties, we use the dot default props object and set the default properties inside of that. So with create React class, you need to define get default props as a function on the passed object. Okay. So in create React class, basically you have to create a method called you need to define a method called get default props that sets the default values of the properties. So setting the initial state. So in ES6 classes, you can define the initial state by assigning this dot state in the constructor, like that. With create class, you do it with get initial state. So okay. So here we are setting the state, we're initializing the state by doing something like this. Here they're saying that you do it by defining a method called get initial state and setting it there. Yeah, the difference is, I think here you set it to this dot state, and here you really define a method, and then the method is returning an object with the state. Auto binding in React components declared as ES6 classes. Methods follow the same semantics as regular ES6 classes. So basically what they're saying is in React components declared as, if it's a class-based React component like this, they are saying the methods follow the same syntax as regular ES6 classes. So the syntax is similar to a regular ES6 class. This means that they don't automatically bind this to the instance. Okay, so here, as you can see, we are explicitly we had to do this explicit binding. So with create class, this is not necessary because it binds all methods. Okay, so here, if you see, there is no binding, I mean, of handle click. If you compare that with how binding is done for this dot handle click, I think there is nothing like this line if you use the create React class function. So this means writing ES6 classes comes with a little more boilerplate code for event handlers, but the upside is slightly better performance in large applications. So it looks like with ES6 classes, there is more boilerplate code, but the upside is we get better performance in a large application. So if the boilerplate code is too unattractive, if the boilerplate code is too unattractive to you, you may enable experimental class property syntax proposal with Babel. So they're setting it here itself. This is experimental class property syntax. So apparently this gets compiled to whatever is shown in above, but we won't bother too much about this. Please note that the syntax above is experimental and the syntax may change or the proposal might not make it into the language. If you rather play it safe, you have a few options. Bind methods in the constructor, use arrow functions, keep using create React class. So I like something like this instead of binding it. So I'm going to try to do something like this instead, because there is a there is always a chance that I might miss doing something like this for all the event handlers. So basically, instead of binding something like that, I'd rather call the handle event with the process it here itself, like the syntax shown below. I like something like this. So mixins. So ES6 launched without any mixin support. Therefore, there is no support for mixins when you use React with ES6 classes. Okay. We also found numerous issues in code bases using mixins and don't recommend using them in the new code. This section exists only for reference. Okay. So they're saying don't use mixins. Sometimes very different components may share some common functionality. These are sometimes called cross-cutting concerns. Create React class lets you use a legacy mixin system for that. One common use case is a component wanting to update itself on a time interval. It's easy to use set interval, but it's important to cancel your interval when you don't need it anymore to save memory. React provides lifecycle methods that let you know when a component is about to be created or destroyed. Let's create a simple mixin that uses these methods to provide an easy set interval function. that will automatically get cleaned up when your component is destroyed. So, so they are setting up a mixin. They created a mixin object here, so which has multiple properties, anonymous functions. So one of them is set interval, and one of them is component will unmount and component will mount. So create React class, using create React class, we would create a mixin called set interval mixin array. Oh, so you can have multiple mixins. You're saying, hey, we'll use this. You're setting the initial state, and when the component mounts, we are saying this dot set interval and this dot tick. So you're setting an interval, basically calling this tick method every 1 second. And the tick method in turn is going to set the second state after incrementing it. And render is going to render it. Yeah, when render sees that the state changed, it's going to re-render it. So React DOM.render, okay, so this is it. So if a component is using multiple mixins, several mixins define the same lifecycle method. All of the lifecycle methods are guaranteed to be called. Methods defined on mixins run in the order mixins were listed, followed by a method call on the component. Okay. So this is one way to use mixins if you use React without ES6. That's the end of it. I'm not planning to use it without mixins, so this really doesn't apply to me, but it's good to keep it in the back of my mind. So in the next section, we will look at React without JSX.